December 1983, Celtics versus Suns. Final seconds. The ball swings to Bird, and he's falling away. 1 foot in the air. No time to square up. No plan B. He's trapped near the sideline, caught mid-turn, off balance, and off rhythm. And then he lets it fly.
That ball is going to have to put it right out. Max looking, loops it to Bird, a runner. It's good! It's good! And the Celtics win it! Bird hits and the Celtics win it! 103 to 101, a three-pointer by Larry Bird at the buzzer.
1 foot, corner three, no angle, no hesitation. Buzzer sounds, swish. Celtics win. The Bird doesn't scream. He doesn't throw his fists in the air. He just walks away, like he knew it was going in all along. Because for him, it wasn't just a miracle, it was muscle memory. That shot, that wasn't a fluke. That was Larry Legend in his natural habitat, turning the absurd into the expected. And that's just number 10. When you talk about the most impossible shots in NBA history, there's only one name that comes up again and again and again. Larry Bird. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't athletic, but he was cold, calculated, ruthless. And when the game was on the line, he took shots you shouldn't take and made them look easy. These weren't highlights. These were statements. Whether it was a deep buzzer beater, a miracle toss from behind the glass, or a shot that left defenders shaking their heads, Bird meant to do it. He'd call his shot, then bury it, then talk trash about it before you even realize what just happened. For this next shot, it didn't even happen in a game, but it felt more legendary than most buzzer beaters. It's 1988, All-Star Weekend. Bird is gunning for his third straight three-point contest title. The best shooters in the league are lined up. But before the contest even begins, Larry strolls into the locker room, looks around, and asks, "So, who's coming in second?" That wasn't trash talk. That was Bird calling his shot. By the final round, it's all down to Larry. He needs a perfect finish to win. With the crowd rising and pressure peaking, he gets to the final rack. One by one, the shots fall. Then comes the last ball, the money ball. He launches it and turns away before it even goes in. Finger in the air, back to the rim, swish. The crowd explodes. The other players are stunned. And Bird, he doesn't even break a smile. He knew it was good. This wasn't just a contest win. This was basketball theater, a mic drop without saying a word. It takes guts to talk smack. It takes greatness to back it up. But only Larry Bird could walk off a shot he never saw drop and make it iconic. Now, when it comes to Larry Bird's greatness, sometimes it wasn't about flash. It was about will. Game 1 of the 1981 NBA Finals. The Celtics were trailing the Houston Rockets by 1 with under 10 seconds left. Everyone expected a drawn-up play for a star shot. Instead, Boston missed. The play broke down. But Bird, he never gave up on it. Out of nowhere, he crashed the boards, flying in from the side as the ball bounced off the rim. While the Rockets stood flat-footed, Larry soared, snatched the rebound mid-air, and in spectacular fashion, switched hands mid-air, bucket. Celtics lead. Boston Garden erupts. It wasn't just the go-ahead bucket. It was a soul-snatching moment. A reminder that Larry Bird would out-hustle, out-think, and out-tough anyone. No dribbles, no setup, just pure instinct, elite positioning, and the heart of a champion. That putback wasn't designed. It wasn't pretty, but it set the tone for the entire series. And it showed the world that Bird didn't just want to win. He was willing to fight for it.
Sometimes you have a tendency in the moment to forget about the other ones, but it was a good play. It was a horrible shot I missed, but I was able to gather it and in the air, switch hands and get it to my left hand and make it. Just so happened to be in a big game, game 1 of the 1981 finals against Houston Rockets that I I think that's why it played up with so much hype. But still, it's something that I always did back then, was always follow my shot, because the guy that's shooting the ball knows whether he's going to make it or miss it most of the time.
March 12th, 1985. Larry Bird didn't just have a hot hand. He turned the Omni in Atlanta into his personal stage. The Celtics were facing the Hawks, and Bird told his teammates before tip-off that he was going to go for 60. Not 30, not 40, 60. Kevin McHale had just dropped 56 the week before, and Bird made it known he was about to break it. And with each shot, it felt like he was pulling further away from reality. But one stood out above the rest. In the final quarter, Bird gets the ball on the wing. He's tightly covered, falling sideways toward the sideline, and still lets a fadeaway three-pointer rip. Completely out of rhythm, high arc, 2 defenders in his face. Cash.
In backcourt to Dennis Johnson. Bird is on the baseline coming out right. There's Bird. Bird, 14 seconds, he got fouled. He hit the shot. They're not going to count it. And Bird falls into Joe O'Toole.
The Celtics bench went wild. But what's crazier? The Hawks bench, the opposing team, started laughing and falling out of their chairs. Even they couldn't believe what they were watching. That shot wasn't just 3 more points. It was confirmation that Bird wasn't playing the same game as everyone else. He finished with 60, his career high, and that night and that shot ended up being one of the greatest moments of his career.
Well, Kevin McHale broke the all-time record a couple of weeks before that, and against Detroit Pistons, and I did not want him to go out of the game. There's a couple minutes left, and I told him to stay in, go for 60, and that's a number in my head that I wanted him to get. He ended up with 56, so a couple weeks later, when we were playing in New Orleans, and people always say, well, how did you know how many points you had? Well, you didn't have to keep track of them. You never do. You just play the game, but the announcer let me know every time I scored. So he go 48, 50, 52, and when I got to that with like 3 or 4 minutes to go, I thought I might as well go ahead and try to get 60, and that's what I did.
By 1986, a 23-year-old Michael Jordan was already a rising force. Explosive, fearless, and hungry to prove himself against the league's best. But on this night, Larry Bird reminded the kid that there was still a pecking order. With the game tied in the final seconds, everyone in the Garden knew who was getting the ball. The Bulls threw their best defender on him, Jordan himself, and for a moment it looked like MJ had it covered. Bird caught it near the baseline, jabbed once, backed down, then pulled into a high arcing jumper from 18 feet out. Jordan was there, hand up, picture-perfect defense. It didn't matter. Swish, game. Bird jogged down the court like he just finished brushing his teeth. No celebration, no reaction, just business. What made this shot so impossible wasn't the mechanics, it was the context. This was the league's next superstar, draped all over him in the clutch, and Bird still hit the shot like he was in an empty gym. Jordan would later say Bird was one of the toughest players he ever faced, and this shot was part of the reason why. Because no matter who you were, Larry will always have the last word. The 1984 NBA Finals was a rivalry for the ages. Celtics versus Lakers, East versus West, Bird versus Magic. And in Game 4, it was Larry who struck the biggest blow of the series. The series was tied 1-1, but the Lakers had just embarrassed Boston in Game 3. Media outlets were questioning Bird's leadership. He fired back in the press, calling out his teammates for playing like sissies. He was angry, and in Game 4, he played like it. The game was brutal. Elbows, bodies on the floor, sweat pouring in the heat of the old Boston Garden. Tied late in the 4th, the Celtics needed a bucket. Bird came off a screen, caught the ball just inside the arc, rose up with a hand in his face, and nailed it. It wasn't flashy, just pure mechanical perfection under maximum pressure. That jumper sealed the game and tied the series. The Celtics went on to win in 7, and Bird was named Finals MVP. But Game 4 was the pivot, and that shot, that was Bird doing what only he could, dragging his team forward one impossible jumper at a time. In a rivalry built on moments, this one was pure Larry legend. November 14th, 1989. Philly thought they had it. Charles Barkley thought he sealed the win. But Larry Bird had other plans. It was a hard-fought game against the 76ers. And with just 1 second left on the clock, Barkley hit what looked like the game-winning shot. He celebrated like it was over, clapping, pumping his fists, already soaking in the moment. Bird turned to him and said calmly, "You gave me 1 second too many." The Celtics called timeout. One final possession. Everyone in the arena knew who was getting the ball, and everyone in the arena knew it wouldn't matter. Bird caught the inbound, fading away from the sideline, barely in bounds, double-teamed, leaning off his shoulder, and still let it go. Buzzer, swish, game. The crowd went silent for a moment and then erupted. Barkley just stood there, stunned. After the game, Barkley admitted it. "There's nothing you can do. He's the best clutch shooter I've ever seen." This wasn't just a game winner, it was a lesson. Don't ever celebrate early if Larry Bird is still on the floor. He'll end your night and your highlight reel in one impossible motion. Entering the top 3, this shot wasn't just impossible, it was premeditated. It was 1985, Celtics versus Blazers. Celtics down 2. Ball inbounds to Bird. Everyone in the Boston Garden knew what was coming, especially the Blazers. But here's where it gets cold. Right before the play, Bird walked into the huddle and told his teammates, "Give me the ball and get everyone out of the way." Then he turned to Portland's bench and told them exactly what was coming. "I'm going to get it right here, and I'm going to bury it." And he did just that.
DJ again to make the inbound pass. The double team and Bird. Larry, fake, fall away. Hits it! It's the murder! All right! Unbelievable.
Bird gets out as far as he can go. Gives a fake, try and draw the foul. One dribble, the fall away, Hail Mary prayer, please go in shot. And there it is, folks.
He caught the ball just inside the three-point line, took one dribble, stepped back with a defender draped on him, and launched a rainbow over the outstretched arms of 2 defenders. Then came the walk-off. Not a celebration, not a fist pump, just Larry Bird jogging off the court like it was a Tuesday morning at the Y. It wasn't just a clutch shot, it was a cold shot. Bird didn't just sink the Blazers, he warned them first, and still, there was nothing they could do. Many players dream of winning one title. Larry Bird's Celtics, by 1986, they were chasing greatness. Game 6 of the NBA Finals, the Celtics were on the brink of their 3rd title in 6 seasons, up 3-2 on the Houston Rockets. And with the clock winding down, the game still in reach, Bird found himself with the ball in the corner. He didn't rush, he didn't force it. He just calmly stepped behind the line, pump faked, created space, and buried the dagger. Swish, game over. Series over. Dynasty secured.
7:45 remaining in the 4th period. Isolating 1-on-1. McRae didn't go for the fake, pass back. And even when things break down for the Celtics, they score anyway.
But this wasn't just another jumper. It was a masterclass in patience, poise, and perfection. Bird let the play develop, read the defense, and made the exact right move to end it all, just as he'd done so many times before. There were flashier shots in his career, more acrobatic ones, but this was the shot that defined an era. The moment when Bird slammed the door on the Rockets and carved 1986 into Celtics history forever. It was clutch, it was cold-blooded, and it was the moment Larry Bird turned greatness into legacy. Most NBA players wouldn't even think to attempt this shot. Larry Bird, he hit it in stride, like it was just another Tuesday. It was 1986. The Celtics were battling the Rockets. Bird was stuck near the baseline, trapped with almost no angle, no room, and no hope. Any normal player would have looked to pass out. But Larry wasn't normal. Instead, he leaned just behind the backboard and, with a flick of his wrist, launched the ball up and over the glass in a perfect arc, and watched it drop straight through the net.
Sam Vincent to Bird, and it goes in! It doesn't count, but it goes in! How's that? I've seen everything! Look at this! I'll tell you what, guys have tried it before. That's amazing.
The crowd lost their minds. The Rockets were stunned, and even Bird himself, as stone-faced as ever, gave a little smirk, like he knew he'd just done something ridiculous, even by his own standards. The shot broke physics. It defied logic. But what makes it number one is this: it wasn't luck. Bird practiced these angles. He knew the spin, the arc, the geometry of the game better than anyone. It wasn't a prayer. It was precision. And that's why, to this day, no one else, not Jordan, not Kobe, not LeBron, can claim that shot as their own. Only Larry Bird can boast about the over-the-backboard miracle. What makes Larry Bird's greatest shots truly impossible isn't just the distance, the angle, or the pressure. It's the certainty with which he hit them. These weren't wild heaves. They weren't lucky bounces. They were calculated, rehearsed, and executed with the confidence of a man who knew the game better than anyone else on the floor. Over-the-backboard fadeaways, game-winning putbacks, one-foot buzzer beaters, called shots in overtime. Bird turned the NBA hardwood into a stage, and every shot was a performance that walked the line between genius and insanity. He didn't jump the highest, he wasn't the fastest, but Bird mastered every inch of the court and had the audacity to try the impossible, because deep down, he knew he could make it. And the scary thing is, so did his opponents.